Unity has finally broken their silence with an open letter to the community.
I just want to say I'm sorry.
And it's good news for some. Really, it's just less bad. Let's break down what's changed, what's still wrong, and where the conversation is at. Use the chapters to your delight. If you're new to all of this, you should check out my last video. It includes a complete timeline, a full breakdown of the fee, and is a comprehensive overview of all of the discussion surrounding this controversy. We're back with the old subscription model revenue caps, except now with the sustained removal of Unity Plus, the limit for upgrading to Unity Pro has been increased from 100,000 to 200,000 US dollars.
Before, the way that Unity Personal worked is you could use it up to $100,000 of revenue for your company. Now it's 200,000.
And great news, the splash screen is completely optional for everyone, if you upgrade to the next long-term support version of Unity. And the terms of service, they'll be locked into the current version of Unity you're using.
People need to know that they can rely on a set of terms when they start using a version of Unity, so we're going to make sure that that's the case.
None of this is in effect yet, and could change, but that was the deal with the original announcement too. What about the fee itself? There's now a choice. Pay the fee, or pay a 2.5% share in revenue, whichever is less.
You'll always be billed the lesser of whatever that calculation is, but it's also up to you.
At least now you can factor the maximum cut into your profit calculations. Rather than starting from January 1st, it'll kick in with the next LTS version of Unity. That's Unity 2023, which, yes, is confusing because it's releasing in 2024. The fee only hits at $1 million of trailing revenue and at 1 million engagements. That means as soon as you make and continue to make more than $1 million over a 12-month period and upgrade to the next Unity version, you'll need to pay, in addition to your subscription plan. Either choice between the revenue split or the platform fee is self-reported, just like how the revenue caps for the subscription plans already work. The good news is that instead of developers having to trust Unity, Unity now has to trust developers.
When we say that you can use Unity Personal up to $200,000, we're also not tracking that. We're just telling you that this is what the rights are associated with this version.
You'll have to put the work into declaring your revenue or engagements to Unity on a month-to-month basis. It's a bit of extra effort, but at least now there's no secretive, underdeveloped proprietary install tracking technology. We've also seen the language change from installs to engagements. It's essentially sales, but you don't sell a free-to-play game, so engagements.
The truth is there's just a lot of different scenarios in games, and so some people might say, why isn't it sales? But sales doesn't work if it's a free-to-play game.
There's none of this reinstalls or installs on a new device business.
Now, if they had multiple devices or they reinstalled it, you don't count those multiple times.
These are legitimate acquisitions, so piracy doesn't count either.
A legitimate first time that someone was engaging with your free-to-play game or your paid game.
Amazing. You're up to speed. Now we can get to the interesting questions, like why isn't the CEO, good old John Riccitiello, making this statement? And who is the author of this letter, Marc Whitten? Anyway, Marc's a part of the corporate suite, which puts his salary firmly in the 8-figure range. We'll come back to that. He's a senior vice president, general manager, and lead of Unity Create, which runs the editor and engine teams.
This is my part of the business, and there's a lot of people, obviously, internally that have worked on this. The executive team has worked on this, but I'm responsible for what we're doing inside of Create.
Allegedly, this is a toned down, less heartfelt version of the original letter shared with some members of the community, which to me signals a lot of internal debate about messaging and what concessions could be made. As for John, let's be real. He has a target on his back. He's become the face of this controversy, and that's part and parcel of being CEO. He's got a lot of baggage. Nobody likes EA. Not a lot of devs are happy with Unity's direction, and some hold him to account for the downturn it's taken. His words are not the ones to help the community heal. There are too many who want him to step down, if not a complete refresh of the upper management. From a PR perspective, this was the schmooze. What definitely wasn't helpful was Unity saying that the terms of service GitHub repository was removed for a lack of views. That wasn't a great look, because it was a representation of Unity's promise to do better after their last TOS f***up. I'm going to be controversial here and say that the logic tracks. This was a service they voluntarily gave the community, a service they had to commit resources to in order to support, a service we weren't using. At the end of the day, you can still review the TOS through the normal channels. This was just a tool to make those changes easier to track. And let's be honest, you should be reading the TOS with every new update. If this situation has affirmed anything, it's that we can't trust companies at face value. We shouldn't be exclusively relying on a non-legally binding GitHub repository. Not that we were anyway. Now, I've got a dirty little secret to tell you. I don't read the terms of service, and I won't tell if you don't either. The good news is that now devs won't have to until the next time they update Unity. Because all these changes are linked to the next TOS release, some developers are committed to staying on the current version of Unity. I don't see that being viable for long. So many new features are going to be added, so many issues fixed, so few splash screens, that the value proposition will quickly outweigh signing on to a new pricing system that, in all likelihood, isn't going to affect you. If you can forego those shinies, I have nothing but admiration. This is really helpful for games already in the pipeline.
So it doesn't impact any games that have currently shipped, and it doesn't impact the games people may have already been working on for a very, very long period of time.
This isn't an out-of-the-blue cost increase anymore. It's something that studios can plan for after their next release. Aside from the fact that it's generally not great practice to migrate engine versions mid-development, this means they can totally avoid the new pricing system. Groovy. But why did it take Unity so long to say something?
The reason we didn't get back to you in a couple of days is because as we were working through the plan, we were going back and talking to big customers, independent developers, partners, over and over again to get that feedback.
Which is great, because that's one of the things the community was asking for. It was a smart move to take some time and be more cautious with their messaging. Everything Unity was saying was just stoking the fire, especially when apologizing for the confusion, like it was the developers' fault. I don't think that was their intention, but it was the way it was read. The social team has really been having a rough one, and I feel for them. Okay. So salaries. I'm not here to defend multimillionaires. These people's salaries are absurd. This is a product of the system, not a product of Unity. If they want top tier talent, they've got to pay the big bucks. It's not for me to say whether they're getting their money's worth. That's a decision you can make on your own. And sure, maybe I can point out that a good chunk of Unity's revenue is going into their pockets, but we can't pretend like that isn't par for the course. It's just worth touching on share sales as well. I mentioned in the last video that John Riccitiello sells 2,000 Unity shares, totaling 50,610 sold and 0 bought in 2023. This is in line with the board's ongoing monthly scheduled share sales. And this is true. Marc's a little hazy on the specifics, but essentially,
for almost all of us, they're on this plan, 10B something plan, that you sort of have to commit the stock here and then it sells on a certain number of times and you have no control over it, because the only way that you can actually trade the stock is to make sure that it trades in a way that you have no control. So that stuff happens, and every time it happens, anything else that's happening, someone says, aha, they did this thing.
Speaking of Unity's revenue, do they need the money? Well, yeah. I said this in my last video. It fucking sucks, but Unity is a public company beholden to its shareholders. It's never made a profit, though I suspect that's from above board accounting trickery. Marc has come out and said this isn't a cash crunch. It's not something they'll use to fill their reserves in the short term.
This is about a business model transition. This isn't about, hey, we need to do something for the next 3 months or something like that. This is about setting up the foundation of the company. This program is critical for us, for the foundation of the company, to be able to continue to invest for a very, very long period of time.
This isn't a reversal, it's a walk back. Unity is still getting a good deal of what they needed out of this. Some are likening it to the door in the face technique. I can see it, but I'm not one of those people. Unity firmly believed this would have been less expensive than a revenue share, and the messaging around that has been pretty consistent.
Much less, a smaller number. And so you could pay less, they're gonna just pay less, not have to pay as much, and often less.
I don't think they considered enough of the use cases. But now at least having a choice alleviates so much of the burden of these niche situations. All in all, this is undoubtedly a better outcome. The pushback has had an effect, but there's still a lot that's wrong. Ditching Unity Plus leaves a sting, especially for console developers who have to upgrade to Unity Pro. Sure, those on the plan get to hold on to their current pricing for a year, but this absolutely isn't a win. On top of that, WebGL and streamed games are once again applicable for the fee. There's not a lot of clarity around this, but if I had to take a stab in the dark, I imagine it would only be for first-time engagements. That being said, I'm not sure how you're supposed to self-report that. The biggest issue is that none of this is in writing yet, and there's no reassurance that it won't happen again. A lot of these changes will need refinement. The only real option for those sticking with Unity is to twiddle their thumbs and be vocal when it's time for their voices to be heard. One huge question still remains. How is Unity planning to rebuild trust? Viewer discretion is advised. You might find this unsatisfying.
I'm committed to making sure that we continue to work as hard as we can to earn your trust. That said, actions show that, not words. I totally get, trust is easy to lose and it's hard to earn, and we have to show it, and then people will judge us based on that. And so my job, our job, is to make sure that we build the right tools, go about it the right way, and that people see that, and then it's up to them to make their own determination about trust. I can't tell you that you should trust me. You have to decide that on your own.
There's some whose trust has been so broken they've simply walked away. There are some who teeter on the edge, unwilling to sacrifice their work and expertise, unhappily waiting for Unity's next fuck-up to enact their departure. There are a couple suggestions being thrown around to help rebuild trust, like releasing a roadmap for the next couple of years. I don't think that'll happen. If Unity gives a detailed plan, the moment they deviate from it, there will be backlash. If the market shifts and it's no longer viable, it'll be a colossal effort to get enough people on board for a change. Companies are monolithic, slow-moving machines. There's nothing to stop Unity from doing this again. They might have to. Developers had a great deal in the past, and the current plan is still a reasonable one, despite how it was put forth originally. We can only hope that Unity has learnt to go about this better, more amicably and more openly. Unless there's another bout of heart attack-inducing news, I'm done with this. If you're craving more and aren't fully in the loop with everything that's going on, check out my last video. Also check out Jason's video for the full interview with Marc. There's a link to both in the description. As unhappy as I've been, I'm sticking with Unity. If you're okay with that and keen to see dumb videos about dumb games at the same level of quality, subscribe and check out my other videos. Maybe even give the bell a little tickle. In the meantime, I'll be in the comments, getting back to your wonderful words and incredible insights. Chuck us a like or dislike on your way down.